their way.
Now, looking into our next game, we're going to Battlefield of Eternity, so it might be that we see Hanzo pop out here, so he can do the increased damage with a couple of different talents to that giant monster that is the Immortal. Team 12 with the Battleground choice, Gale Force picking first pick. I do want to echo how cool it has been to see Team 12 add another map to their arsenal, having Towers of Doom. They've, for a long time, been a Battlefield of Eternity, Infernal Shrines, and Tomb of the Spider Queen team. And then to be able to start to amass more of these maps that they look very solid on is it's a good sign for this team, especially looking at them and their potential to represent us internationally.
We have not had a single Braxis holdout game
in any region.
And we are now 3 weeks in. And last year for North America, it was a very popular battleground, especially Gale Force. I believe it was banned here.
No,
it wasn't.
Cursed
was banned. That's right, Cursed and Shrines. It's just, I'm not saying I'm glad I'm mad it's gone, but I'm surprised that we haven't had a single game yet.
Yeah, it seems like the teams who are trying to get a sneaky win, who might have used to pick Braxis instead, are saying, "Have you heard of this map called Volskaya Foundry?"
Yeah, you know, Volskaya is unique. Changes coming soon, TM. So, look a little different.
I don't think it's even TM anymore. They're on the PTR.
Yeah, next week. But for the league, we'll see
yeah, that's
how
true.
it comes in, yeah. Definitely a little bit different, but with Battlefield of Eternity, much different than we have on Towers of Doom. The Arena of Death, as I like to call it, that center circle, you can't avoid a team fight. And the last time we saw Team 12 on this battleground, Gilly, was that triple warrior composition that they ran.
Leaving first pick?
Yeah, I think that was more towards a response to their opponent, because their opponent was running a very heavy melee team, and they were like, all right, we can do that. And they played right into it, and it worked out well for them.
Yeah, it was Team 12 versus Simplicity, and battles were had by all. Maybe we'll get the same. Wow, Medivh ban for Gale Force.
Dainsky getting the respect ban there. Yeah, on Battlefield of Eternity, it does feel a little bit weird.
Yeah, Dainsky always plays Leeming here. Leeming and Tyrael generally earlier. We've had a couple of different Tyrael players for Team 12, but they do already prioritize having Tyrael on this map. Though, if they feel like it's going to be the first pick, it wasn't the last game.
Stretching.
You doing your calisthenics?
Normally
Battlefield of Eternity stretches.
Normally it kind of phases in, so I'm just like over here, like. It's like, oh no, you're on camera. Abathur, it's funny because I believe in Europe it's getting closer. It's about 55% in the first ban phase, and in Korea it's a little bit less, but right around 50%. In North America, it's somewhere much, much lower, right around like 10 or 14 or something like that, I think, as I looked at last night. The other regions really like Abathur. We saw Abathur on this battleground before. I think it was yesterday.
I think so.
And so definitely teams have played around this.
Yes,
but
Freedom.
Yeah, other regions have definitely had a high priority towards Abathur, and it seems like, because it was towards the end of last year, his symbiote, when you had somebody, it received a straight buff on all abilities. And that was, I want to say October, November, so it was not live at BlizzCon. It was kind of there at Gold Club, and I think a lot of people took note of that. And so when the league rolled over and we started 2018, a lot of people were like, man, Abathur's pretty good. I think it was mostly due to that buff. We just didn't get to see it towards the end of last year.
Genji is up, and Gale Force is happy about it. They'll take Genji.
Do we get Li Ming as a response, though? That's the question. I feel like Greymane obviously has been a high priority across all teams.
It's weird because we started week 1 and it was first pick everybody, and then the win rate showed that maybe that was a little too highly valued, 25%. Went down a bit. Seems like he's kind of climbing back up. He's finding his place in the meta, especially with the changes that have come in with the latest balance patch, as we did switch over to the Hanzo balance patch this week with the Tyrael rework. And Team 12 has first pick Leeming Tyrael every time they've played Battlefield of Eternity. I don't see why they would change that up, especially since it seems like Tyrael's stronger, but they're thinking about it. Tyrael
Tyrael
Hanzo.
Hanzo. Interesting. So they're going to give up Greymane, or excuse me, ETC. I would find it hard pressed for Gale Force to pass on ETC, though they might. But I wonder if they'll continue the Malthael trend. Because getting past second ban phase, I would think would be unlikely. But maybe with Tyrael there and Sanctification, maybe it's a little bit more likely. But the way that Gale Force has prioritized that, it would be a good all-around ban and a good targeted ban.
Did they play Malthael into Tyrael yesterday? They had Tyrael Malthael. Malthael into Tyrael, yeah. Maybe it's, I could see ETC Malthael. I could also see Malthael Lucio if they feel like they need something on the other same side to kind of get them through, like the sound barrier. I don't know. One of those two is what I would expect.
Yeah, the Lucio has obviously been a high priority. I wouldn't be surprised if we end up with a Karazim at the back end or just before the second ban. So they don't pass up the ETC again. Coming in to this year, Fury was the most dominant ETC player in North America last year, sitting, I think, if I remember, 10.25 KDA on ETC last year. Coming into this year, garnered respect as one of the best ETC players for quite some time. And it plays into what we've seen Gale Force traditionally try and do around that. Now that they've got Fury back in the mix, it definitely complements a lot of what they like to do. Karazim, the Iron Fist, I don't know if we'll see Insight. It's a possibility, maybe just switching it up. Maybe it's a Battleground-specific thing. But it also goes into the strategy you mentioned yesterday, was that there wasn't a lot of hard CC. The Arthas wasn't on the other side. It was a Tyrael. So there wasn't stuff that really countered Karazim. And last game, there were a lot of counters towards Karazim, between the Stukov, between the Arthas.
Yes.
This time might be a little bit easier to pull that off.
Yeah, it kind of depends. Tyrael doesn't give a lot away. The Hanzo sort of does. We haven't seen Dansky play him yet. It's been more of a Cure hero, so it's likely not going to be a Cure Tyrael, but it absolutely could still be a Goku Tyrael if Justin wants to play something with a little more hard CC, a little more punch to lock down that Karazim. Or you could put Justin on that, and then Goku could go into his Sonya. His Sonya was very effective last time they played Battlefield of Eternity. We could see him more on some sort of side-soaking hero. We've seen a lot more Goku Leoric, so that might be a possibility. But the Tyrael Leoric, that's the place where we may see that switch back over into an Akka-based Insight.
You know, I was looking at the ETC. ETC has been the most successful warrior that we've pretty much had. Coming into this weekend, he had a plus 70% win rate against Johanna and Anubarak. Against Tyrael, 35% in 17 games. It's something about the strategy, right? ETC seems to be doing well against certain tanks and not doing so well against others. And when you take into consideration that he has, I believe, the highest win rate of all tanks right now, and you look at the fact that Murd and Tyrael are his two best counters at 35% and less win rate, but against all other tanks, all other main tanks, 70% plus, that's a huge difference in terms of how that's played. We have Tyrael on one side, ETC on the other. We'll see if that counter strategy holds up.
Yeah, Tyrael has a lot of mobility to try to help someone away from the ETC ganks. Also Sanctification, if you're trying to go for more of an ETC style pick comps, which it seems like Gale Force is leaning toward, having a Swift Strike from Genji and a follow-up dash in from Karazim so far. Now do we get Li Ming from Team 12? Are they willing to bust that back out again? Do they have another strategy for Battlefield of Eternity? They get Lucio. Ah, the first Team 12 Malthael of 2018. We knew Goku could play it. We're just waiting to see when he would play it.
He just had other priorities, just flexing, spreading his wings a little bit.
They have taken all those big counters too. Sound Barrier, Sanctification. I love how Team 12 drafted into that Malthael.
It's going to be tough, especially with the Genji trying to get in there, Sanctification and the Sound Barrier. As long as they don't overlap each other and you can make sure and play around those, find the right opportunity. Sometimes you kind of get in a panic and you have to do that, but communication is key, obviously, if you want to get max value out of that. But the Li Ming being left up, the Genji there, it would seem a bit hard to pass up, but then you look at the fact that Tyrael can dive on you, Malthael can get back there. Is it enough? Remember, new Tyrael doesn't have built-in spell armor anymore. He just has a higher health pool, so he doesn't have the spell armor. So if you're wondering about the new Tyrael rework, no spell armor, just a higher health pool now.
Some sort of damage to, or a lot of it. And when I say some sort, I mean like only damage.
Well then.
Tracer Kerrigan. Hyper aggressive.
This goes into my belief when it comes to Battlefield of Eternity in particular. If you lose a team fight with this composition early to mid-game, and let's say the enemy team gets a really healthy shield, Genji, not so good siege damage. Tracer, not so good siege damage and anti-siege. And the rest of your team is a bunch of melee. And if it has a shield on it, it stays in range form. It gets tremendous value if you give up a really healthy shielded immortal.
Yeah, for Gale Force, if they lose something like that, it's gotta be fight behind and then deal with it. And that's no easy task because Team 12 drafted Tyrael Lucio, who, if you are using those correctly, provide a long time of shield and immortality, or vice versa, immortality then shielding. And yet Gale Force says, yeah, that's fine, we could still make it work, and then gets Tracer and Kerrigan to add more to that. Oh man. And then Blaze. So they're gonna stick with this triple melee that they played last time with the solo Hanzo. Likely we'll see Dansky switch the Hanzo then. Cure probably on that Malthael.
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah. Blaze though.
I will say, so far, Gale Force is undefeated on Kerrigan.
That's true.
There's something about the Kerrigan that plays into the way they like to do things. It hasn't been on Battlefield of Eternity. It's been on Infernal, Tomb, and Dragonshire. So we're going to see it now on Battlefield of Eternity. It seems like they're comfortable just kind of pulling this out at whatever moment seems necessary, in the least expected moment. And this one seems a little unexpected, but now this kind of is starting to be their thing. Game 1 didn't go so well, so let's flip the script and see if we can get aggressive with it.
It is a little bit strange to see Gale Force deviate so far from their drafting of yesterday, but maybe it was that they had prepared these strategies and stuck to more of things that wouldn't give away those strategies. Last game felt more like a counterpick, especially that Diablo, taking it away from Medivh. This, though, feels like they had the plan. They're sticking to it. Let's see how it works out. The Genji, Tracer, Kerrigan, B-Kid playing Genji, by the way, and then the triple melee as Team 12 responds.
Blaze for Justin.
Ooh.
It's going to be our first time seeing that. We actually saw a main tank Blaze earlier in Europe, so it's not out of the ordinary that it could be main tank or solo tank. This time he's got a little bit of a buddy up there with Tyrael, who's not too shabby at being on the front line.
Yeah, and Cure will be sticking to that Tyrael, and Goku playing Malthael. Justin Blaze. JPL played him yesterday, too. So there is some switches. That's a different level 1 than I've seen so far from all of the European Blaze. Collecting regen globes to reduce the cooldown of Pyromania. And then after you get 15, having Unstoppable.
That self-cleanse versus the likes of an ETC and Kerrigan, probably not a bad idea.
Generally not a regen globe heavy map, but if you win the Immortals and you're going around making sure to get the Mercenary camps, it's only 15, it's not too bad to finish out that new habits. Increased range for Wraith Strike. I've been wondering when we were going to see that pop back in. Death's Reach. But there, like you've seen before, there's a lot of mobility. So if he's trying to make sure that he can keep up with something like a Swift Strike, Tracer blinking away, Karzim dashing.
I don't have we ever seen a B-Kit Genji?
I'm pretty sure one time at least, but it might have been last year.
I'm pretty sure it's definitely not this year. It's definitely not this year.
Yes. We had the one B-Kid Li Ming when they did the triple ranged.
So an interesting setup for Gale Force. They don't have the traditional melee style. Instead, Michael Udall, of course, being the Kerrigan player for this team. So B-Kid flexing over to the Genji. I wonder if that was something that they had anticipated or whether they're like, well, I guess this is what we're going with now, because it's going to be interesting to see if they can pull this off.
I mean, that's the big question, right? We're seeing a big change-up. And when we had talked to Biggie yesterday about the drafting, he felt like, you know, he was trying to make sure that he was keeping things very stable as he is still learning. He's new to the drafting role. This is his first team that he's doing it for. So it's a big change to see from yesterday to today, but I have no doubt that they've prepared a lot of strategies. It's just whether or not the strategies are ones that they felt like they've been able to play or if they've had to adapt on the fly based on what Team 12 has been drafting and playing so far.
Both teams dropping back to their respective shaman camps. Of course, the Immortals do spawn at 3 minutes in, so imagine these teams. Some teams have actually been capturing this a little bit earlier, trying to get some push value out of it, but traditionally you capture this right before the Immortal spawns. That way it pushes lanes, it forces out rotations, makes it a little bit easier for defense and to be aggressive depending on who rotates out first or last there.
Geez, we were talking about having sound barrier and sanctification on a team. You had bunker to that as a way to escape damage, as well as just be able to give armor to the team. And there's a lot of safety for Team 12. Team 12's been playing a lot of different styles of strategy, but it feels like safety is one that they are more than willing to fall back on, playing those safe comps with the Johanna picks that we've seen from Justin too. But Gale Force, they've taken a lot of damage in that bottom lane, J-How.
They have that Shaman camp pushed in just a little bit. Fury trying to get out of danger as Team 12 has turned their attention towards the Immortal, as they've got the head start on this race, about 4,500 ahead, 4,600 at the end of that.
Yeah, and at 7, Blaze can add a lot to that with the Incinerator Gauntlets, which seems to be the new favored pick, at least from what I've seen in Europe. With the change to that, the increase in damage from that, as well as the reduction, or the nerf to the grill and kill talent that you're seeing there. So we'll see if that goes along with that. Still Insight for Akaface, no Iron Fist to add to the damage. Seems like Gale Force is way more about the fighting, way more about the kills, then they'll worry about Immortals.
Akaface took 1 down. Of course, that does give you a little bit of race towards, they sit at 92 stacks, so he's not very far from that. But he wanted to come down in case he was needed for defense. Didn't want to be too far away from his team, as Team 12 pushing in just a little bit. Again, without the Li Ming style that we're traditionally seeing with these teams, there's not a lot of poke outside of a Hanzo on either team right now.
Yeah, if they can move him forward, create some space. He does have serrated arrows now. But so far, both teams have been more than willing to just make sure that they're keeping up with the lane soak. Gale Force starting to push up in that top lane. Once Team 12 can get this to flip locations, and now they have, unless Gale Force can get a pick there, which they're going to try really hard. Here, jumping over to his El Druin, the boot back. So good from Buds.
I mean, Michael Udall waited. He timed that perfectly to make sure the El Druins was going to go out. Don't chase it, don't get baited, don't get juked. But then Buds came in and just gave him a little knockback, and that's all that he needed for safety. Good heads-up play there by Buds.
Saves his Tyrael. Team 12 can continue to siege on this Immortal. Gale Force having that Kerrigan are hoping they can still get some early picks somewhere. Mike's gone in, B-Kid 2. Biggie chasing back Goku.
They are all about the team fighting. Even ETC's level 7 talent is a change up here to make sure and get that extra damage.
All right, Gale Force gives up the Immortal. They'll just take down the shielding as far as they can. As J-How talked about it, there's a lot of melee for Gale Force, and they're even going to try to zone away from these globes and take them for themselves, but zoning away is nice. As did New Habits finish yet? It did not. One more. Oh, they'll stall it out slightly longer.
We have so much healing potential that Spirit Ally was picked up. It's not the most common, but when you talk about getting that physical armor, you've got all these auto attacks, you've got a lot of ability damage, Lucio the fast auto attacks. It just seems like they're in it to fight. And right now, they need to get this shield down, because as it stands, it's going to run right over their fort. This is the problem with this heavy melee comp in the anti-siege.
Kerrigan's staying bottom, so Gale Force aren't really going in for the fight. Justin using that New Habits as he finished it to go through with the Unstoppable. Gets the 3-man jet propulsion for the stun. Biggie's going to chase back Dancy, but the fort is gone, and this Immortal is still extremely healthy. Team 12 have a level lead, and they're continuing the siege.
The scariest part about compositions like this is what happens when it goes wrong. Not even just a lot wrong, just what happens when a little bit doesn't go right, because it had about a 40% shield on it. And it managed to take a fort and a keep wall at 6 minutes in. That is the danger of running these compositions, and Team 12 took definite advantage of that, and they get themselves a level lead in 10.
It just feels like everything's been going wrong for the start, or from the start kind of for Gale Force, but it's also Team 12 with excellent recognition of what they needed to do. They went bottom, they pushed hard for that really fast, took out a lot of the structural damage there. Then Gale Force went top, didn't get as much done there, so they were behind from that. Tried to get at least a kill as the Immortal phase started, but Team 12 had a faster movement into the mid, so they got the jump start on the Immortal phase. And not being able to get that kill, Gale Force has just been struggling having this Kerrigan ETC Tracer doing what the comp is meant to do, getting those picks. They found nothing from that. At least they're going to have 10. They have heroic abilities to fight for the next Immortal phase, but they've lost both of their forts.
Yeah, they really wanted to push in top with this Shaman camp to get the fort, or at least get it onto the fort, and then back out and try and do more. Instead, they're going to get 10. They're setting up a party bush opportunity. They're going to try and go through this choke point to see if they'll come down on the Shaman. Mike Udall a little bit forward, see if they can find somebody. Goku, Cure, who's it going to be?
It's going to be Cure. Have the stun into the pulse bomb too, blew him up before a sanctification. Well-timed, everything well-timed from Gale Force to ensure he couldn't do that, because there were some people fairly close. They might have been able to try to get the counter, but Team 12 were also working on getting the Merc camp top. Cure will be back in 10 seconds. He has Sanctification once he is back, but that's Gale Force getting what is necessary with their comp.
It gets them back in experience, and it gets them a little bit of control. Goku has to be careful because Kerrigan will dive on that.
Yeah, they're just setting up for these kills now. There's a Dragon's Arrow that hits every single member of Gale Force Esports. Goku has stayed alive. He takes down Genji. Tracer falls too. A palm keeps Michael Udall alive in the moment, but the boot back into the fort. That was insanity. Absolute insanity that Team 12 kept him alive. That Dragon's Arrow, everything about that.
Yeah, the sound barrier actually missed the mouth ale. And so that Dragon's Arrow, it was insane. The sound barrier comes in because he got knocked back. He doesn't get hit, but this Dragon Arrow is going to land and hit so many people.
Palm hit, look at Buds. No, go back in, takes another Dansky there too. Ridiculously good synergy from Team 12. They lost their Cure, but they kept their mouth ale alive and punished hard over Gale Force Esports. Now Gale Force way far behind again in the Immortals. They don't have Maelstrom, they'll have Palm in a few seconds, but they're probably going to have to try to take a fight right here. They need to get something done absolutely right now. They're going for Justing.
They have to go Justin. The pulse bomb goes out. Throw down the bunker. Save yourself from the damage. Dansky, however, is not going to be able to save himself. Dragon Blade is out, but they got the one kill. Regardless of that, Team 12 should have the tools to finish this off eventually.
Yeah,
but they cannot stagger here.
One pick is not enough. Gale Force have to keep going, have to find pick after pick, especially if they want to get this Immortal. But if nothing else, they did send Tracer down and Genji down just to whittle down that shielding, because they're not out of the woods yet at all.
No, because if they give up another high shield Immortal, it's going to be even worse. But Goku coming in with the Tormented Souls. Below is the Sanctification staying in. The Dragon Arrow has missed, though. Sound barrier's out, but we've got a Mosh Pit.
Mosh Pit hitting, too. The bunker doesn't matter. It's not going to save you from that mouth ale. Fury goes through another one. Cure in danger now. He's on the Immortal. Justin's going to go right back in. A lot of Gale Force pretty low as Mike drags back in Team 12, and he will pay for it with his life. The Immortal taken for Team 12. It's a 1-for-1, but there are a lot of low health bars, and Buds leading the charge, helping the team get into position. Oh. Unfortunately for them.
Biggie!
Woo!
Oh my!
He just killed 3 people before he died.
I mean, that was sick. That was absolutely sick what he just pulled off there. You know, he died in the end, but getting those kills was insane.
Justin is still going. The Lone Ranger, Blaze.
Oh my. If
Hopefully we can see Biggie pop up again, because that was that was nuts. Both teams playing with fire, playing amazingly well this game. But Gale Force get the breath
another
to clear out.
High shield Immortal. It's going to be even worse. But Goku coming in with the Tormented Soul. You know, we'll get through that.
All right. Sync was good. Dragon's Arrow missed, and Sync was good in the sound barrier after the fact.
Yeah, I mean, the Mosh Pit, getting that was just a huge part. Getting the mouth ale down, of course, Cure and everybody was low. But as you watched everybody go away, the big charge there, keep your eyes on Biggie. He's on Tracer. He's on the left side right now, moving towards the bottom. He's at almost 0 health. When you think about Tracer's health bar, it's nil. So he's playing around Fog. He's going to go in, and then he uses his recall. I mean,
He hits Buds. Buds is trying to speed them in, but they're pretty low too. Hits Buds. Buds also has a low health bar. At the same time has the pulse bomb too. That double kill and then the triple.
I actually thought his recall with the parting gift had done a little bit more there, but it was a team effort. But the fact that he lived, Tracer's health bar is so minuscule to begin with. I mean, he had to have been sitting on something like 50 health right there. Just like, well, if I'm going out with style.
I am amazed by Gale Force. They have been doing what they need to. And when we talk about Gale Force, this is traditionally a time that they have struggled within games. This mid game is not a place where they are able to get back into a game. Generally, if they win, they have a lead in the early game, and then they keep going from that to their victories. But here, they have done what they needed to do every time. They keep not only getting one pick, it's not enough. They have to get more, and they do. They have lost the Immortals, but they have maintained their keeps. They are still in it in experience, so they can keep up the fighting.
And that's exactly what they're going to have to do, is just fight. I mean, because they've maintained the experience in these team fights, it allows them to very much be in this game. Kira gets away with, actually this, was that Cat? Okay, it was Cat.
Yeah, Gale Force knew that they were going to be capping it, but didn't quite get there in time. They get back to the Immortal faster and can do some damage here, as Team 12 are going to go in and try to zone, ward Gale Force away from that. Team 12 are slightly closer to 16, but it should still be some time if Gale Force can find the right opening.
Biggie, he's got his eye on a target.
Pulse Bomb's ready.
The Pulse Bomb's ready, got the movement speed to get out. CL Druins got the Holy Ground now. Of course, being at 13 makes it a little bit more impactful, not just solely around the late game. But Kerrigan and team, they've got to rotate because the Shaman camp did not get cleared off. So they're going to force the rotation out. Is Team 12. Malthael push that. The minute they see Kerrigan, look for Team 12 to be aggressive.
Yeah, it's far away too, and it's not a global. It's not a Dahaka who can come in. It's not a Falstad. Kerrigan has to clear that out. Team 12 getting more aggressive, at least getting some oil spills ignited underneath.
Biggie is just trying to find a way. He gets the heal. He'll look for the re-engage. Without 16, Team 12, they'll play it passively. I mean, one of the craziest things that you have to consider is with Kerrigan down there, she had to clear the minions or clear the camp. But you don't necessarily have to kill the minions. You can stay nearby, body soak. By clearing the minions, you're going to send experience over. And you can see Michael Udall is going to stop doing that because if you send 16 over to your opponent, you're actually giving up more than what you're getting by trying to give that. So the fact that he did not commit to that, forcing Blaze to rotate down, is a really good call for Michael Udall.
Yeah, the split of Gale Force feels treacherous, but they've had Tracer and Genji up in the top, and Team 12 have not gone in. They've wanted 16 for themselves, but Gale Force and how much damage they did, the split they had keeping Kerrigan in the bottom while they had Tracer and Genji getting that 4 actually catches them up, so they have 16, slightly ahead of Team 12. Now it's the point to fight. They're going to have some chokes where maybe they can get a mosh pit in. Maybe they have the Maelstrom, the Dragon Blade too. But with Sanctification, Tormented Souls, and then the Dragon's Arrow too, that's just as scary to try to get in that.
You can see the Holy Ground is also dangerous. Biggie on the far right side is getting damage in, but this is starting to fall. The power slide over. Goku, there's the Holy Ground. It's going to lock him in. And B-Kid going in on that Genji, trying to look for a fight here. Not going to find it just yet.
Both teams being incredibly patient with their heroic abilities, not wanting to use something for nothing. Mike hopes for a combo. Kier delivers, but it's on his terms with the Holy Ground.
That's enough.
Immortal capped.
That's tough for Gale Force. I mean, the shielding here, you mentioned it in the draft, Gilly. This composition, if they get behind, the only thing you can really do is fight behind the Immortal. The Immortal is different than the Punisher. It can put down the death circles and try and stun you and knock you back if you're in melee, but it does not target you specifically the same way a Punisher does. So now they're coming in. You can see the flank on the backside from Fury. The minute the Sonic Arrow goes down, they're coming in.
Yeah, Justin knows this too. We saw his zoning. He was pushing back all of Gale Force as far back as he could to keep his team safe. Kier doing the same. He has the Holy Ground space. The minute that Fury comes through, has those Holy Grounds. They want to at least enable that this Immortal gets on the keep before anything else. Gale Force moves in. They're behind all of Team 12. Team 12 are locked in as Michael Udall goes to the combo. The bunker down.
The bunker's down. It's going to save a few people, but coming right out of that is the mosh pit. There we go. Big and B-Kid are going off right now. That's 3 members down, but Tracer has fallen. The Immortal is still up, but 4 members go down. You know, the worst thing about a Sanctification in a bunker, we know exactly where you're going to be coming from.
Oh, man, that was a pretty mosh, but things are not solved. Goku running away slowly, drops the spray.
The Immortal is doing...
It's doing work.
Yeah, the Immortal is going to go down, but not without taking some of the core with it, as that is 49% left. But that, you know, I almost wanted to make that point, but when the bunker goes down, Fury knows exactly where they're coming out.
Insanely good. It was a good jet propulsion from Justin, at least, to try to stop, but it was enough. When you've got Tracer and Genji dancing all over you like that, it's enough to get done, but it's not just like in every other fight that Gale Force has won this game. They're just still not out of the woods. The control of the Immortals, the problem with defending those Immortals, the best thing going for Gale Force is that if they can win a team fight as handily as they did that time, this time the respawn timers are getting long enough. As long as there's not an Immortal pushing against them, they should be able to run across.
And they need to try and do something, because they're going to have to take another team fight. They have the experience lead. If they can play around the experience and maybe get 20 in the middle of this, generally you're like, all right, well, the catapults are your timer, right? The catapults will eventually get to core, and then we can be aggressive. But the threat of 20 actually counters that. And that's the biggest thing. You know, Tracer and Genji are both showing bottom. This is actually really dangerous for Gale Force here. Like, extremely dangerous.
Fury's not getting away. Fury's not getting away. Yeah, they even use the Dragon's Arrow. What?
Yeah, he got away.
The Dragon's Arrow. Oh, you know what? I did not count Heavenly Zeal. That's on me.
I mean, Buds did a really good job to zone out Akaface there. He got the boot back as Kerazim was trying to come in. He ended up getting just enough space created, so Akaface making the plays there, using the body block just in case if needed, and then getting the palm in to make sure. And pre-20, Team 12, they're going to try and go in. Palm is down. Dragon Arrow is down. Mosh Pit is up.
I thought there was no way, as long as Dragon's Arrow was up, they could use that. But Fury survives. And that's everything right now. That would have been a staggered death that may have been irrecoverable, because having that frontliner to zone from this Immortal, keeping Gale Force in the lead in experience, that would have been experience gained for Team 12. They were in the top where that keep was low. It's just way too much against Gale Force to lose someone as crucial as any of them really, but as crucial as their ETC at that juncture of the game.
Kerrigan trying to soak 20 on the bottom lane. The next wave top will be enough. But there's the stun onto Tracer. Got to blink out of there. Kieran team keeping the pressure on, but the Holy Ground also locking Akaface in.
Arrow.
But the Dragon Arrow, Gilly.
Arrow, Akaface is low. They got the Sanctification now. 2 people. Akaface is down. Now the second falls with Kerrigan. And there is the third one. 3 people gone so fast as Team 12 used the synergy of the Sound Barrier, the Sanctification, and using that Dragon's Arrow against all of the melee of Gale Force Esports. Should be able to smite and kill Tracer. Quick wipe for Team 12. Finishes out the game.
Gale Force was so close to 20. Tracer, I mean, the stun there from Justin onto Tracer really was like, I guess we're fighting now. And Gale Force could not back away from that. And so Justin starting that was, I mean, that's game ending right there. That is game ending for Team 12 to make that play happen. So credit to Justin for initiating that, and the rest of the team following up. Perfect execution behind all of it.
Yeah, jet propulsion is so powerful when you have that many melee. And especially with the kind of chokes, you know, Holy Ground gains so much more value because you have that many melee and that people close together. You jet propulsion in, you Holy Ground behind them. You have Dragon's Arrow to follow up too, and that's that area stun. You're never going to leave that. And then with the Sanctification and Sound Barrier, good timings from the team. They made it through anything that Gale Force possibly had. Gale Force, it felt like they were constantly clawing their way back in that game. They almost had 20, but it was always them trying to get back at Team 12 somehow.
At first, Immortal just did so much, and it really set them behind. I mean, it was just, if it goes bad, it goes really bad. The fact that before that last team fight, they were up 11-6 in terms of kills. They were this close to getting 20, and that fight would have had it not happen and they get 20, all of a sudden we're looking at a different game. Gale Force might still be in that. But again, Justine forcing the initiation, recognizing 20 was on the doorstep. Good plays by Team 12 to finish that.
And that puts Team 12 up 2 games over Gale Force Esports, looking to try to get a confident 3-0 to close things out. We're heading to a break. After the break, we'll have Game 3.